Morning all, thanks for joining today's workshop. We'll just give it a couple of minutes for a few more people to join. Got quite a few being signed up for today's session. Good morning once again, those just joining. We'll just set a few, give it a few more minutes, only a couple, and then we will get going today. We will be using a interactive Miro board on the session today. I've just put the link in the chat. If you can click on that link and join as a guest, that will take you to the board that we'll be using today. So there is the link there in the chat for the Miro board with as many people as we can on the board. That's what makes it interactive for us. I just need to sign in as a guest. You don't need to create an account. Okay, while you're just looking through that, I'll just give you a quick introduction about myself. So my name's Lee Marlowe. I work for a company called BBI Services, and BBI Services stands for Building Business Improvement. We always say to people it does exactly what it says on the tin. But we were working with a marketing company last week, and they pointed out that they couldn't see any tin. So we might have to rethink that. But basically, building business improvement. We work to develop people, we work to develop processes, and we combine those two to give businesses an increase in performance. So we work solely within the construction sector. 80% of our work is actually out on site, on projects, or with off-site manufacturing. We work on a variety of projects from rail, highways, infrastructure, residential, commercial, all aspects, all facets really of the construction sector. I've worked in the sector now for just about 10 years. Again, covering all of those sort of areas, rail, data centers, resi builds, lots of different areas within the construction sector. My background prior to construction has always been around manufacturing, so automotive, aerospace, but I've also done a bit in the food industry as well, right from out on farms in fields through to food processing. And always for the last sort of 25 years, my focus has been on developing businesses. So business improvement, people development, leadership and management programs, lots of different sort of activities within that sector, all about developing people. So a couple of people just joining. There's a link to a Miro board that we're going to be using today. Please click on that link, sign in as a guest. I'll soon start sharing my screen, and we'll get going on today's session. So it is an interactive workshop, hence why we use the Miro board. We'll be getting you to post comments on there, add notes. More than happy for people, if you want to have discussions, that's fine. We will have the Q&A feature, or the chat feature, sorry, the chat, not the Q&A, enabled. So if you do have any questions, please shout out as we go through the session. If you don't want to shout out, type it as something in the chat, a question in the chat, and I'll get back to you. It is only me today, so it might take me a couple of minutes to spot you've put something in there, but I will keep checking that and answer those as we work through today's session. So let me share the screen with you. You should now be able to see the Miro board that I'm on, and the one that hopefully as many of you, I can still see there's quite a few people need to sign up onto that board. I think we've got about half of you on there. So get signing onto that link, and then you'll be able to interact with us on today's session. So today's session, hosted by Supply Chain Sustainability School, for National Highways, and this is for PDF, as far as PDF is right, I think. Okay, so the purpose of today's workshop, accelerating productivity. So this workshop is designed to provide senior leaders and decision makers. And when we say senior leaders and decision makers, that doesn't mean sort of executive level people within our business. It's anyone really that's got that sort of influence to be able to help make decisions, influence decisions, and steer people when we're looking to drive improvements through the measurement of performance and productivity. So very much today thinking about why we need productivity improvements within our organizations and on our projects, but also to look at some case studies, and then to start to share some of our thoughts and ideas about how we can accelerate productivity within the construction sector. Objectives of today's session, so where I want to be at the end of today's session, is that you all are able to understand what productivity is, why it's important within the sector, to have given you the opportunity to look at a case study, to identify why we perhaps need to change from what it is that we're currently doing and what are going to be some barriers to implementation, to identify some key productivity measures and talk about the opportunity that we gain from implementing them, and then start to discuss how we drive value and some of the levers for improvement. So some of you may have been on this workshop before because we've run this for a number of different people within National Highways or different frameworks within National Highways. So if you have seen this one before, then you're free to stay on, or you're free to drop out and carry on with the rest of your day. I do recognise a couple of names in there. So I've done a quick introduction as to who I am. You'll have access to the board. This is obviously shown in Teams, but we're in Zoom. So you'll have clicked on the link, signed in as a guest. That's taken you in onto the board today. All we're going to be doing on today's session is either adding what we call a sticky note, post-it note to most of us, or editing what's already there. So clicking on a post-it note and editing it. I'll just quickly show you how to do that. So if you watch what I'm doing, let me just bring everyone to me. Over here on the left-hand side, we click on sticky note, pick the color we like, move over to where we want to put it, and then we can start to type something. And make it bigger, or I can make it smaller just by grabbing the corner and dragging it. If I type the wrong thing, or did the wrong thing, I come over to here where it says undo. If I click on undo, that will take, firstly, it takes away my text. Secondly, it takes away my post-it note that I put there. So any problems, just use the undo feature or Control Z. You can't break the board. I've not had anyone break it yet anyway. So if you do move something around that you didn't mean to, then just use the undo feature or Control Z. It will only undo what it is that you've done. It won't undo what anyone else has done. So don't worry about deleting other people's post-it notes or anything that I've put on there. If I want to edit a post-it note that's already there, all I need to do is hover over the post-it note, double click it, and then I can type. It's that's simple, really. I say simple, it's only simple if you know how to do it. But if I can use Miro, most people should be okay with it. So that's what we're able to do. If I want to move the post-it note again, click it, cursor inside, and then move it around to wherever I want to. If I'm not happy, undo, and it moves it back. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing today, either adding post-it notes or editing post-it notes that are already there. I can see we've got some experts, you see, because we've got some smiley faces on already, which is good. So, following the presenter, if you get lost, and some people do like to go off and wander and look around on the Miro board. If you do get lost, if you click on where it's got my initial L there, that will bring you to wherever I am. Occasionally, I'll click on it and bring you all to me, so that we're all in the same workspace. See, Dami's just joined. Dami, there's a link in the chat for you to click on. That will take you to the Miro board that we're all working on today. Okay, so today's session, accelerating productivity. So by just as a quick introduction, we won't do it verbally, but if you just want to click on one of these post-it notes, don't all try and click on this one in the top corner. Just put your name, your current role, and what it is that you want to get out of today's session, or your expectations from today's session. If you don't really know what to expect out of today's session, that's fine. Just put your name and your job role. That'd be great. I'll zoom in on some of these once we've got them filled in, and then we'll start to see who we've got with us today. Okay, so we've got Lisa. Morning, Lisa. National Highways Head of Quality for Ops, and working closely with the PDF community to increase pavement life. Wants to more awareness of productivity. Genevieve, Quality Manager at Connor Construction. Morning, looking to learn new ways to remove barriers for business improvement. There certainly is plenty of barriers, isn't there? Alan, project engineer at DDC. Morning. David, HSEQ Systems, Data and Certification Associated. Asphalt. Morning, David. Gain a better understanding on the PDF framework to support business and collaboration with national highways. Today, we're not going to be explaining the framework, but we'll certainly talk about how we can improve productivity to gain collaboration. That's good. Trevor, morning, Trevor, Senior Quality Engineer Inspector. Oh, is Trevor still typing? I'll come back to you, Trevor. Sorry to interrupt you there. Just finished. Keen to learn how we can improve productivity output on site production. So good. We're going to talk about some tools and techniques today. Ray Hill, Project Director at DDC. Morning, Ray Hill. So morning to the rest of those that are with us today on the call, but not completed those. Thanks for joining the session. Hopefully you're going to find this useful and something of interest to you as we work through the next hour and a half or so on today's accelerating productivity workshop. So, first question: what is productivity? Don't worry, you don't need to answer that question. So, but it is important because we talk about productivity a lot within the construction sector. And I know within national highways, it's certainly high on the agenda of any meetings, workshops, supplier forums, frameworks such as PDF. It's a very important topic that's spoke about quite a lot. But what does it actually mean? And it's always worth us understanding. I know whenever I work with the teams out on site that I get involved with, I always start by making sure they understand what it is that we're talking about. So rather than just use this word. So productivity is a measured comparison of the output of a task or the project or the industry, because we can measure it at different levels. So we're looking at an output and we're comparing that to the corresponding factors of input. So essentially, we're measuring how efficiently we're using those inputs or resources such as capital, labor, equipment, materials. We're looking at how efficiently we're using those in order to generate a given level of output. So it is, if you like, a ratio normally, what did we put into the process to what did we get out of the process? And that's what we mean when we're talking about productivity. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated that we don't want people to know about. All we're looking at is that comparison of inputs to outputs. Why would we want to do that then? So why are we talking today about how do we accelerate productivity, and why is it a workshop that the supply chain school wants to put on? Well, there's significant benefits within the sector to improving and boosting productivity, and quite often it seems almost an intangible term that's only used by those commercial people, those accountants, economists, maybe some of our senior leadership team talking productivity. And it just seems like, well, we never really get there. We don't understand what it means, but it's fundamentally about increasing output more per person per hour. If we boil it right down, that's what we're looking at. And in the construction context, what does that mean? So if we're getting more output from our people every hour, what does it mean? Well, first of all, it doesn't mean our people are having to work harder. It doesn't mean they're having to, rush around, race around, break out in a sweat because they're having to do everything at a massively increased pace. That's not what it's about. But what it does give us, if we do get that output increased, is projects will be completed faster. So whether that be a design project, whether that be the implementation of a new HR system, whatever that project is, even our construction projects, they will get completed faster. But also, if we're boosting productivity and accelerating productivity, it's about getting things right first time, and such eliminating the need for repeat work. And when we're talking about improving productivity, I always say to the teams that we work with and the people that join us on the workshops, the easiest way to improve productivity is just to do the tasks once. So get it done right first time. The minute we start having to redo work, redo activities, snag, highlight defects, fix defects, that's when we lose productivity massively. So the easiest way of boosting productivity is not doing anything different other than do it right first time. But there's an impact for sustainability and carbon as well, because if we're doing things right first time, we're using less materials, we're using less resources, we've got less waste. If projects are being completed faster, there's less commutes to that project on a daily basis, there's less consumption of power, energy. So it gives us that improved sustainability and reduced carbon footprint as well. But it isn't just us, the people that are actually actively involved in the project, it's everyone within the community. So if, for example, we're building better homes, we're building them homes faster, getting them done right first time. Those better homes are cheaper to run. They'll be smarter and safer buildings, lower emissions, cleaner air. So there's that whole impact on the community. Even if we're on a construction site, an industrial construction site, and we get that completed quicker, then same, lower emissions, cleaner air, maybe less traffic diversions around for the communities that are traveling past our site every day. So significant benefits, not just about we get things done quicker or we get more output. Lots of things that we gain from boosting productivity. And this graph here, just to share with you, put together by the Office of National Statistics, and it looks at labour productivity. So again, that output per person per hour type measure. What this chart, why I find it interesting, is that it looked at the construction sector compared to the whole economy, and in 1997 it zeroed it. It aligned everyone to 100, an index of 100, and said that's our current productivity level. Then over time, we can see how the whole economy in the UK has increased with this top line here in terms of productivity. A small dip in 2008, 2009, which we understand was the financial crash. I'd love to see this chart projected from 2020. It's not been updated yet, but I would love to see that because we can clearly see there's going to be some major changes 2020. But interestingly, if we look at construction as a whole compared to the whole economy, it's this blue line that's sort of hidden here. And it actually ends up in 2020 at a position lower than it was in 97 in terms of labour productivity. We can see that the financial crash had a much, much bigger impact on the construction sector. But what it shows as a whole is that the whole economy is moving faster in terms of productivity improvements in the construction sector. And there's going to be some reasons around that. Probably a few people on the workshop today saying, yeah, well, that's because this happens in construction. And there is some things that are different. The level of complexity within the construction sector has increased massively. Recently working with an offsite precast concrete manufacturer, and their outputs per person are considerably down over the last 10 years. But their sales value isn't, because what they're actually making is fewer products, but far more technically and aesthetically complicated. So those products sell for more money. So if you like, they're making more profit than they were 10 years ago, but their productivity level is slightly lower. So productivity is great, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not the only measure we should be using. But this is just interesting to see that there has been a gap between the whole economy and construction. Why is the government really interested? And when I say government, this slide was put together before we had a change of government, but current government will be just as interested in productivity. Why are they looking at that within the construction sector? Basically, when you're spending more than £600 billion on infrastructure alone, You want to get the best value for your money. You want to get the biggest bang for your buck, if you like. So you want to, or pounds in the ground, as it's sometimes called. You want to get the best value for that investment in that infrastructure. So what does that mean? That means we need to find ways of working which will be more productive. We need to grow the skills and be ready to grasp those opportunities, because we know there's a skills gap, so we need to be growing that, closing that gap. Government's keen for us to be building homes in weeks, even days, rather than months. Want to be putting buildings in at a third of the cost, and we know these are stretch targets. And if I was in government, I'd probably be asking the same thing. We can see this is from 2018, but the edict hasn't changed, if you like. We want to be more productive within the sector, because if we continue to spend this level of money on infrastructure, we need it to be giving us that best value. So that's why productivity is really important to the government. What does it mean for your business? We've already spoke about projects are getting completed faster, costs are reducing, higher quality levels, more accurate estimates. So if we are in control of our quality and our costs, we can be more accurate on our estimates and tendering processes. Productivity should actually improve health and safety, shouldn't actually take anything away from it. So by boosting productivity, we need to make sure that that additional organisation and control it gives us also impacts and improves health and safety. As we've already spoke about, gives the business improved sustainability and reduced carbon. And we can see on this little chart here, so these are the things we're looking at: improved efficiency, reduced cost, improved margin, program certainty. That's what improving productivity does for our business. And again, some other stats here, and we'll come back to where these stats were from later, that they are from the construction sector. It's later on in on one of the slides. But the average time that workers spent on unproductive activities on site was 57%. So more time spent being unproductive than being productive. And the time the average worker spends waiting due to manual processes, such as waiting for approvals, permits, deliveries of material, equipment, human error, defects, 29%. So we can see, and this isn't saying that these people aren't doing their job. They are doing their job, but they're not able to do that job to its highest level of productivity because, for example, they're waiting for some equipment to be delivered to site. So just some scary figures to show, where we are in terms of levels of productivity. But then what does it mean for those people? As I've said already, it's not about us cracking the whip and making these people work even harder, because we don't want to work harder doing the same things that we've always done, because we're just being unproductive faster. So we want to look at, for those individuals, if we're boosting and accelerating productivity, we're improving the working environment and organisation, less wasted effort and frustration, reduce fatigue, improving morale, improving consistency of skills and knowledge. And ultimately, why would these people want to look at productivity? It drives better wages and conditions. If we're delivering projects faster, higher quality standard, controlling our costs, there's more profit within projects for us to be able to invest in our people, our equipment, our skills and our training, etc. So that's what we have in terms of our people. Little video to show you. I'll play it on here for you, and you should be able to just observe it playing through here. So let me just bear with me. I'm just going to move this across to a different screen. There we go.
So you think you know Wix, but do you really? First up, we've got Shape video masks. You can use
For me, productivity in a sort of construction infrastructure context is usefully understood as having a part which is about effectiveness, i.e. doing the right things, and a part which is about efficiency, i.e. doing things right. Actually delivering social impact through the totality of the project is critical, as well as doing it using minimal resources, minimal money, minimal impact on the environment.
Productivity in the infrastructure and construction sector, I think, is mixed. I think the statistics would tell you that productivity is flatlined, and compared to other industries that have progressively improved productivity over the last few decades, construction industry hasn't changed. Yet when I go out on site, I see pockets of really highly effective things, highly productive things, tunneling, viaduct construction, off-site manufacture. So there's pockets of really high productivity. I think the opportunity for us is to spread that across the whole industry and bring the whole industry to those kind of levels of excellence.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're doing very well against that measure of effectiveness and efficiency at the moment. And if we just rattle through a few things, is you've got the Get It Right initiative pointing to something like 20% of all project costs on average being associated with avoidable error. We've got program delays everywhere. We've got projects that simply don't deliver on their business plan objectives. 25, even 50% more materials being specified into structure than is necessary to comply with codes.
The starting point for looking at productivity often comes from how do we deliver the outcome, the project, the piece of infrastructure for less. You can design and build things in a way that's really safe. So you can manage out construction risks by less people involved, or by things being fabricated off-site that can be used on-site. There can be better quality by having things standardised and repeatable. Less use of resources means less impact on the environment, so there's an environmental benefit. So thinking about how to do things in a really productive way can bring a load of other benefits with it.
Delivering improvements in productivity, the prize is huge, but getting there is quite challenging. Very often we're delivering one-off processes. We don't really have either, to be honest, the mindset or the techniques necessary to deliver continuous improvement often enough. It's a complex ecosystem with lots going on. There's a huge amount of actors, and getting them to cohere and align around a transformation towards improving productivity is tough. It's tough to do. We have a problem with initial conceptualization of our projects. We know that we're not getting the initial projects framed up adequately, and if you get that wrong, nothing else will save you.
To start, we need to think about how do we think through planning and design and construction together. So how can we plan and design things in a way that make them more efficient, and thinking about that as an end-to-end process.
And while I say it's a big challenge, it's going to take a long time, that's to get to the end. Actually, we'll be getting benefits out of this as we go. This is a process where we've got to win every year. We can't wait for 20 years until happy days. So the way we're delivering this stuff, the way we drive this improvement has got to deliver, and I believe it can. That allows us to get to the end, because we know that we live in a sort of short-term focused economic environment, political environment, and frankly, offering people prizes in 20 years' time is not attractive.
Okay, so that just let you see some people from a couple of different organisations within the sector confirming really what we've been speaking about already on our workshop today. So just going to share a case study with you. Let's have a look at one of these little case studies and talk it through and see how improving productivity looks, or what it looks like in real life, and some of the things we need to do. So I'll pick on this one. This one is a project we were working on with in the Palace of Westminster. It was the fit out of the fire life safety system, and programme of works was to upgrade the existing system to an automatic fire detection and alarm system, along with modifications to the emergency lighting, fire escape signage, etc. So been impacted by significant delays lots of different reasons of why that was happening. Project management was being coordinated through a complex and basically an Excel spreadsheet that needed a lot of maintenance. And the bit of the project that was important was 200 lines within a 3,000 line tracker, which was creating lots of ambiguity. So the first thing in terms of understanding improving productivity is start to identify, what is it that we need to be doing and what are we doing in terms of outputs. So it's identifying those outputs first, setting some measures in place so we can start to see where we are. Are we achieving our output measures? Are we missing our targets? Is there something that we need to do? So the team came up with this little board. So as it says, not a flash, but very effective. So they were looking at the works each day of the week, and they were trying to take this focus away from, okay, we've got 310 units to do over 12 weeks. Okay, what does that mean a week then? What do we need to do each week? Okay, we need to do 26 a week every week. That will get us to the end point we need to be at. So breaking that 26 down onto our working days, and we can see it's 25 thereabouts, 25, 26, but 5 a day basically: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, not working on a Friday or Saturday. So that was the planned activities each week, and we can see what we started to do. So on the Sunday, achieved nothing. On the Monday, we got 10, which is probably all of the ones we needed to do for Monday, and some of the ones, excuse me, from Sunday. 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Wednesday, 18 on Thursday, gave us a total of 29. So in this week, as an example, it's ahead of schedule. But in the early days, these were all far, far lower, with notes being put in about why something's happened, what's driven that result, why were people not able to do the piece of work that was planned to be done. So that was the way of sort of measuring it and highlighting what are our outputs. From that, it was identified that the reason people couldn't complete the piece of work was because they either didn't have the materials, they didn't have the labor, they didn't have the information they needed, or they didn't have the parts that they needed to go and install in that area. So the team came up with this little kitting idea, and the idea was that we put a kit of parts together. But it wasn't just parts. It was, have we got design? Have we done a buildability assessment? Has the impact statement been accepted? Have we been granted access? Have we got all our materials? Have we got our enabling works done? If all of those are ticked, that means we're good to go. So we're all green, we're good to go. So basically, these sheets were highlighting that this piece of work was either good to go or it wasn't. So the team could then see what they could do and what work they couldn't do. So every morning, 9 o'clock meeting, looked at, this is what the plan is for today. Where are we going to work? What can we do? Have we got our 5 that we need? If we've not, we can't do that piece of work. Let's reschedule it, but we can do this piece. Let's pull that in instead. So basically, a little kitting and scheduling system that let people make sure we were fully utilizing people. Redesign that clunky Excel tracker to a less clunky Excel tracker, but basically a handover progress tracker, just showing simply where we were with each part of the project. So as it worked through the process towards the handover point. So we can see how many parcels are prepped and uploaded, how many have been comments added, how many are signed off by the client. We can look at the handover process. So what does that give us? You might just say, well, that's fairly basic, but that's what we're talking about when we're looking to accelerate productivity. So this team actually ended up installing 315, a little bit of scope creep from 310, and they did that 7 weeks early. So this is a project that was in significant delay. We came in, we've reset, we've set a target for completion, and then we've beat that target. So the handover was commenced prior to plan. So it wasn't just we finished and then sat around for 7 weeks. It was actually handing over 7 weeks earlier to the client. So that's what productivity looks like in real life. It's not something that we do to our teams. It's something that we do with our teams, and they suggest ideas. They talk about what frustrates them, what stops them working. We start by putting some measurement in place to understand A, what it is that we need to do, and B, how well we're doing against that. And then we're able to implement some countermeasures and actions to make improvements. So as you've got a link to this Miro board, you'll permanently get the link. It always stays, so you'll always be able to get back and read these other case studies. So they're about us understanding, how we drive productivity in the real world. There isn't any that are highways focused. That's deliberate. You need to apply your own thoughts to those there, but there are other environments that you'll be able to see, how has someone made a change to a process. Okay, enough of me talking for a few minutes. Over to you now. So now we've spoke about sort of, if you like, the need for productivity improvement and what productivity is. What I want you to do is click on these post-it notes and put something on for me. So what's your compelling need to change? What is your why? Why is it that your organization needs to change? What's driving you to want to change and improve productivity? And then what are the barriers that are stopping you doing that? What's stopping you make those changes? So just fill those in for me. Click on a few of those, give me some comments, and then we'll talk around those comments. I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to fill those in, and then we'll talk through some of the things that you put there. Then anyone that's struggling to get on the board, that is in the links in the chat for you. So let's see plenty of these post-it notes filled in so we can talk about those. Okay, good. Some good stuff on here. then once you've got those needs for change, then just drop some of those barriers to change. A lot of us probably predict what some of those are going to be, but always good to see what they are. Okay, so I'll start reading through some of these. So compelling need for change. So what is it that your organization needs to do? Is improve conformance. Depending what it is that we're trying to improve in conformance, I guess productivity is one of the solutions. If we're not currently not conforming and having to do things or redo activities or confirm that activities have been done, then that is having, if you like, a negative impact on productivity. Improve quality. As I've already mentioned, can't make it clear enough. Quality, huge impact on productivity. So yeah, we need to improve quality. Improve commitment to increase quality. Reducing waste. So whether that be our waste in terms of what it is that we're sending to landfill, or is it one of the physical wastes, if you like, within our processes? We need to reduce that. Probably the biggest. Second biggest way to or easiest way to improve productivity is taking wasteful activities out after we've got that quality right. Supporting efficiency. That's why we need to change to build our efficiency levels. Less impact on customers and carbon. So again, yeah, as we've already talked through, accelerating productivity, direct link to reducing carbon. Improving quality output and documentation for handovers. There's always an interesting thing there. I know on site we talk to people about when our activity is going to be complete, and different people have a different understanding of what complete means. Often our construction teams think once we've finished with our tools and materials, we're complete, but it isn't fully complete, is it, till we've got our quality documentation, approvals and handover. So again, we can spend a lot of time, if we're not getting things right early in the process, redoing that to so yeah, that's good. Health and safety, still a sector where we need to improve health and safety, and as I said, we never want people to forget that. So productivity isn't about taking shortcuts, and I've seen activities before where we've actually took longer because we had to make sure it was done safely. So that is always something to make sure people are fully aware of, that sometimes a task may actually take us longer to do because we're working to the standards that we should do in terms of health and safety. Improving compliance, so reducing NCRs, again, quality focus. Gaining more work, enabling business confidence to increase permanent employment. Absolutely. If we're boosting productivity, we're satisfying our client, we want that extra market share, don't we? We want more market, we want more business, and ultimately we want more profit. Improving company culture. So we may have a culture where people don't see productivity as, or quality as important. So we may need to change that culture. And again, sustainability. So by doing things correctly, doing it right first time, eliminating waste, we're more sustainable. Barriers to change. So reactive company culture. So reacting to what's gotten wrong and rather than trying to predict things. So yeah, that can help us back. Culture, focus on delivery. So again, talking to a colleague who's working in an offsite manufacturing, saying that they're completely focused on output, on delivery. No one really looking at quality. or productivity, just all about the numbers. So yeah, we need to get that culture right. It isn't just about numbers. It's about making sure we make the right things when we need to make them, and at the right standard, to the right standard, shall I say. Cost is a barrier to change. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Again, went to a site in Oxford recently, told us they were far too busy, and hadn't got any money to spend on looking at improving productivity. And we think about, what does a 1 week saving on a typical program look like to some of our clients? That can be £50,000 worth of prelims. So yeah, cost is often thrown out there. People don't understand the benefits they'll get usually from making the improvements. People, none of us like change, do we? Anyone that drives to work, commutes to work, on the train or tube, you know what it's like. If your train's cancelled, your road's got a diversion, we hate change. So people is our big barrier. Need early engagement with the contractors across the supply chain partners, definitely. Doing a workshop for National Highways with the SDF, Scheme Delivery Framework. Some of those guys, the traffic management guys, had some fantastic ideas how to make things substantially better, but weren't involved early enough in the process to be able to implement those changes. So we do need ECI, early contractor involvement. Poor quality management systems. Yeah, again, if we haven't got that control of our quality, a lot of quality management systems that I've come across in the sector, it's very much, well, we build it, we snag it, then we go and fix it, and then we're on to the next project. We build it again, we snag it, we fix it. We never learn. We don't do root cause analysis. We don't sort of be proactive in some of our quality systems. It's not everywhere, just some observations. Inconsistent schedule of work. Absolutely, this feast and famine. It's all about, we want a level demand. How can we be productive if we don't know what work we've got in a week, month, 2 months' time? Competency, skill of the team. And again, about developing those people. Some of the skills are lacking within the sector at all levels. It's not just our hands-on guys and girls. At all levels, we need to boost that competency and skill. Poor or incomplete designs. I wondered how long it'd be before we got design, and absolutely, having come to the construction sector from other sectors, it absolutely blew my mind that we were trying to build things without a design or an incomplete design. Wouldn't happen in other sectors, but for some reason, almost accepted within the construction sector. Yeah, but we've got to start on site. We've got to get out there. We've got to start on something, else we won't finish on time. But how much time are we wasting having to wait for design changes? We'd be better to wait till we got design and then focus on exactly what it is that we need to build or construct or whatever scheme. So again, it comes back to, we're focusing on delivery, and really we should be focusing on that process and get the designs done correctly and complete. Economics and cost impact. Again, I've talked about cost. For me, I think it's a lot of people don't understand how much poor or lower productivity is actually costing them, because either A, it's not being measured, or B, it's lost in the numbers as we work through an organization. So we were talking to one of our construction clients the other week, and talking to the CEO. And then we talked about, what profit did you plan to make, and what did you actually make? And I found there was a £50 million difference in a year. And we sort of said, well, how much of that was, did you lose on material variances? How much did you lose various different places? Probably attributed about 20 million to productivity losses. And again, that probably is an organisation, when we started talking to them, they were saying, no, we can't afford to get people in to help us boost productivity. But they lost 20 million in a year from it. Resources, we need the people in place. We need the people with the right skills and competency to deliver. And we know resources is an issue. We're so busy in the sector, but it's that sort of sometimes we have to step out the hamster wheel and free people up to be able to make those changes. Okay, good. Thanks for that. Some really good stuff in there. So I've talked about measuring. Let's start to think about some measures then. So got these little quotes from some people who are far more intelligent than myself. So Professor Deming, for a start. Deming, you may know from the Deming cycle or Plan, Do, Check, Act. A data scientist, sort of overlooked in America, went over to Japan after the Second World War and really helped boost what they were doing. But the way he did that was through data. So his quote is, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. And again, I see that when I'm working with teams. I'll ask what problems are, what's the issues. If I ask 10 people, I get 10 different answers. And one or two of those answers might be correct, but the others are just opinions. So we need data so we can be sure we're working on the right things and we're dealing with the right things. However, collecting loads and loads of data probably isn't the answer or isn't the solution to the problem. And data is a bit like garbage, as Mark Twain says. You better know what you're going to do with it before you start collecting it. So just because Deming says we need data doesn't mean we just put data in everywhere and we start collecting all this information. Let's measure the things that are important. You know, if we've got a problem with drainage or asphalt, then let's collect data around there. We haven't got a problem around lighting, then let's not collect so much data there. So let's focus what we're going to do, and let's make sure we're going to do something with that data. And then Einstein, I never get this, but not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. So it comes back to, are we measuring the right things? So let's make sure we're measuring the correct things that drive the right behaviors and improvements. And that's whether we're out on a scheme, you know, delivering in the middle of the night, or whether we're in the design office and we're working on our latest set of project designs. So there's some business measures on here. I'm not going to go through them. They're from the Productivity Task Force. These were just basically some ideas of measures we could use. I'm going to skip over them. They're there. They're on the Miro sheet. You can use them. You can look at them. But we'll just talk about it a bit more general about, because it's not I can't say to you all, because we've got so many people on the team, this is the right measure to use. I'll talk about the types of measures, but not a specific measure, because you have to develop the measure for yourself. But there's measures such as headcount productivity, value added per person, tool time, productivity, process productivity, pre-manufacture, lots of different measures. Anyway, you can see what they are. But ultimately, what we're trying to look at, what we want to be focusing on, is having a nice set of balanced measures for our projects and our schemes. So think about this as those of you that are drivers. In the car, we have a dashboard. We use that term, don't we, as well, for information within our organizations sometimes. But a dashboard gives us lots of information as a driver of that vehicle. So predominantly, we don't need all of that information. We need one or two bits of information as we're driving along the road. So it's about making sure we've got that balanced set of measures and only sort of the information that we need. So in a construction context, we need some outcome measures. So these are the measures that are important to our stakeholders, whether that be our client, our shareholder, our directors. And this should be a measure that directly links and proves if we're achieving our overall aims. So at a higher level, are we achieving what we need to achieve? We then need some measures of our process. So to let us understand that each parts of the system performing as planned, are we on track in our efforts? And these show us how well we're delivering our efforts against those targets. And finally, we need something we call balancing measures. So these measures are helping us look at a system from a different perspective. So, if we are focusing on certain process measures, are we not missing other measures with our system or our process? So they, if you like, are looking at the unintended consequences. So making sure we've not introduced a problem somewhere else within our project or scheme. But just to make that a little bit clearer, this is what these sort of measures can look like. So an outcome measure, schedule adherence, for example, or on time in full, or PPC, as it sometimes will be called, percent planned complete. For those of you who have not come across that measure, basically looking at how many activities did we say we'd complete this week, how many did we complete. So if we said we were going to do 100 tasks and we did 50, we were 50% PPC. And typical within the sector is around 50 to 60%. Profitability, so again, stakeholders very interested in that one. And at a senior sort of commercial level, we're probably interested in how many people have we got on our sites, on our projects, and how much is our turnover, how much value is each of these people adding to our projects. So there, if you like, our high level outcome measures. We then have our process measures, and this is where we're getting into what is it that people are actually doing. So could be bricks laid per person per hour, dry lining, square meters, length of drainage, volume of asphalt laid. Lots of different measures we could use there, specific around our own individual projects. These are the ones that we quite often see missing. So last year I was working on a project in Croydon. We were being delayed on the project by the brickwork. So the planned time to do the brickwork activities was slipping and slipping. Each week or each month we were reporting. So I started asking a few questions. So, well, how many bricks should someone be laying a day? And they were saying, well, could be 500 if it's a nice straight run, but this is quite complicated. There's a lot of balconies, alcoves, angles. So we'd say it's probably 250 a day. Okay, so we understand what our sort of target is. I said, how many are we actually doing? We don't know. We don't measure it. So this is really important for me. So we know we've got an issue with our project. We're falling behind. We know what a target should be, and we're not measuring. So we're never going to solve the issues, are we? So I set about working with the guys, laying the bricks and getting them just to record for me how many they were doing a day. I explained to the people, this is not about what you're doing. I want to understand what's stopping you working. So we had a range from 250 down to 100. So we had some people who were only managing 100 bricks a day. And then we started to look at why weren't we doing that? I won't go through all the reasons, but one of them that really stood out was everyone started at site at 8 o'clock. So the bricklayers are there ready to go, and they either had no bricks or no mortar ready for them. Usually it was mortar because the guys and girls came in, started mixing up the mortar, and that was normally delivered to them at about 8:30. So every day, half an hour lost because we're waiting for materials for mortar. So simple fix, let's get the mortar gangs in at 7:30 so they can be getting it ready for everyone else to start at 8 o'clock. And that's what we did. And immediately we get a boost to the number of bricks that are being laid. No one's working any harder, but we're just being a bit clever on how we work our times to get our outputs up. So that's our process measures. Balancing measures. Well, I want to be looking at things like quality performance, so right first time. And also I want to be looking at absenteeism, health and safety, if you like. not just, the health and safety of what's our safe method of working, but are we introducing fatigue into our people because, they think we're driving them to lay more and more drainage every day. So they're rushing, working harder, taking risks, not using the equipment they should do, and they're injuring themselves. So we want to make sure we're not suffering from absenteeism, but also coming back to my bricklayers, I don't want them throwing the bricks up and then the quality not being right, and we've got to put it right again and get someone to come and do some rework. So by measuring, if you like, these two things, I'm able to see that through us improving our process measures, we're not having a negative impact in these areas. So that's how we work with our measures. On national highways, I know there's a great tool. There's a productivity, certainly on major projects. This may not exist on, well, no, it doesn't exist on SDF, so probably not on PDF as well. But the system they've got, and we could potentially use something similar, is a dashboard that helps people look at their productivity. So this one is measuring, a little bit blurred if I zoom in, but how many shifts have been delivered across all assets within major projects. How many shifts have we delivered that were less than 80% productivity or efficiency? And we've got 666, which out of 4,670 shifts equated to 14.2%. And how many hours did we lose as a result of that? Well, it was 8.8%. So we can see that we're losing shifts in terms of productivity, and we can see that that's causing us to lose hours. Lisa, thanks for the note. I've just seen drop up in the chat. So we're encouraging all payment suppliers to use this within on PDF. So I've worked with some of the major projects people, so I've seen it in action. So that's good. It's good that we're sort of rolling that out across schemes. So what this tells us, how many hours have we lost? So it gives us that high level. What's really interesting though, our output was actually more than planned. So we're falling short on shifts and we're losing some hours, but we've achieved the output, which is a little bit baffling. Anyway, what it does let us do is start to drill down and see, well, what's affecting that? And we can see suppliers' data and suppliers blanked out, but we can see it's drainage, pavements, earthworks, etc. And we can start to see what's causing this. So why are we losing shifts, losing productivity? So no surprise to many of us here, weather, preventing work, unforeseen ground conditions, incomplete enabling actions, again, weather being a safety issue, unspecified unknown, horrible reason code, that one. I can't do anything to fix that. I need more information, so I try not to use that on some of my dashboards because I want someone to actually put the reason. You can't lose productivity because you don't know why. There has to be a reason. I'll probably say if you're losing productivity and you don't know why, it's probably down to management or leadership. Anyway, looking at these, what we're trying to get to is can we fix them so we can see what the big hitters are? And we might say weather, no, that's possibly out of our control. We can't do anything about the weather. That's going to prevent us from working. Unforeseen ground conditions, we might be able to do something there. Incomplete enabling actions, a little bit controversial now, but 100% within our control to manage that. There's no reason we should have that stopping us from being productive and working out on our shifts. It was completely within our control to check that enabling actions have been done prior to us starting work. So these are the things we can start to drill down on and say, right, why was the enabling works incomplete? Did someone not understand the scope? Did the design change? Did we not check it? Did they say they'd done it and they hadn't? So we can start to understand some of these reasons that we've got lower productivity. So dashboards like this help us understand the current situation. They help us expose these opportunities and then inspire us to make some changes and some improvements. We don't want dashboards that are too complicated, though. We need to be careful of information overload. Recently walked around a rail project and saw this board, which I just immediately walked past because there's just far too much going on. I'm sure someone that's been working on a project for many years understands it all. But I want boards and information that I can interpret literally within 30 seconds. I can see what's my status, what's my big issues. Right, great. What do I need to do to go and fix it? So having a board like this might say, look at all our good information, doesn't help me to go and fix anything. These days, we're seeing control rooms pop up a lot more, either digital or manual paper-based systems. This one on the bottom left here was on the TfL tube networks. These are different tube stations, all before reporting performance. You can't see even when I zoom in, but there is red and green markers on each of the corner of the charts that show me if the measure's in control or out of control. Because really a process can only be one or the other. It's either in control or out of control, not somewhere in the middle. And then what are the actions to fix it is on one of these sheets here. Another just a little example. This is just a dummy board that we set up for a client. Just basically has a right in the top corner, where are we? We're 4 days behind and we're on amber. So straight away I can see where I am on that particular activity. I can see where I am on my timeline, see where it's starting to go wrong. I can see my previous performance trends. I can see my current performance, red and green. I can see what's good, what's not so good. And then really important is this bit across the bottom, which when we read it is actions. So this is telling me what's happened, what's the concern, what's the containment, what's caused it, what are we doing to fix it, and has someone done it? Yes, they have. That's what I'm really interested in. The actions are being taken. They're going to bring me back on track with my project. So that's our control rooms, control boards. But the challenge we have, those of us in a leadership position, is we've got our day job to do. We're at the minute we're probably spending 40% of our time doing our sort of daily operations and trying to look ahead and trying to plan. 60% of our time firefighting. We love firefighting in the construction sector. We love it, don't we, when we get a problem and we rush around like crazy and we fix it, and then that gets delivered onto the wagon, or we fix it out on site and get people working again. But with firefighting, we haven't really solved the problem, so it's going to come back in a week's time or a month's time. So we need to really focus on reducing our firefighting activities. And the way we do that is through looking at continuous improvement, or lean, or process improvement, whatever name we want to give it. But us looking at driving productivity is what's going to give us that improvement there. So we need to switch this around a bit. So 20% of our time on daily operations, we're always going to have to do a bit of firefighting. It is construction. We are going to have bad weather. We are going to get winded off on a crane. There is something going to happen that was unexpected, but more time on improvement. Just some little charts here. I'm not going to get you to fill them in today. These are looking at if we had to create a new measure for ourselves for our particular project, as I say, whether that's office-based or out on site, how do we build a measure? How do we create a KPI, a key performance indicator? So first of all, we think of some name for it. What's the unit of measure? Is it tons, hours, people? What's the measure? Why do we need the measure? If we can't say why we need it, probably it's not worth putting that measure in. And if it's my boss told me I needed the measure, well, why does the boss need the measure? What are they going to do with it, basically? How do we calculate it? So is there a little formula? Is it, I take this number and I divide it by this number? How often are we calculating this measure? Is it every day? Is it every week? Once a month? Once a year? What's the frequency? Who's measuring it? So who's actually collecting that information? So who's collating that together? How do we access the data? Is it through Power BI? Is it through a Excel spreadsheet? Is it through a piece of paper that one of our guys or girls has filled out for us on site? And then who's going to act on it? So who's going to actually do something with that information? So we've got why is it needed? So what's it driving? But who's actually going to do something? So I use this when I'm trying to define a new measure or review one of the measures that I'm perhaps using with the teams. That's our measures there. Now let's start to look at how we drive value. I'm just going to quickly zoom out. Okay, come back onto this in a moment. So when we're thinking about value, we talk about our customer value. You might hear people sometimes talk about voice of the customer, and it's about understanding what the customers value from us, and that then gets us to start to think about the work that we do, because we all go to this place called work, don't we? We all turn up to work, and we can split that work into three categories, which is value added, something we call value added, non-value added, and waste. And value added is anything that we're doing, any process or activity that's delivering products or features or services or actually physically building things in line with the customer's requirements. So we're taking something further forward than it was, more towards the desired result that the customer wants. That's our value added bit. That's the green bit. In order for us to do that, we have activities which are non-value added. So they're things that we have to do. I think about myself. If I'm sitting in an office day, I've got to switch my laptop on. Laptop's getting old. Probably takes it 5 minutes to boot up. Have to do it. Have to switch it on, but it's not, if you like, a value added time. I'm not adding any value while the laptop's booting up. Out on site, things like scaffolding. Scaffolders hate me for this, but scaffolding doesn't actually add any value to a project or a scheme. We have to do scaffolding, A, to make it safe, B, to enable works to be done, but it only enables those value-added works. It doesn't create value itself. And then anything else is waste. And you can see in this picture, we've drawn it nice and equally, third, a third, a third. But in reality, it doesn't look like that. It looks like this. So remember the chart I showed you a lot earlier. Average worker spends 57% of the time on non-productive activities. And that's from the Construction Industry Institute report. So traditionally, when we've tried to boost and accelerate productivity, we've looked at what people are doing, which is perhaps only 10% of their day. What we should be focusing on is this big red section over here. So all the waste, all those quality issues, all those wasteful activities. So rather than sort of go and time study a person doing a job and think about how we automate their process, getting them working harder, doing overtime, all of those traditional sort of things, let's look at what's stopping someone from working. How can we focus on this waste section and reduce it? Let's not ignore this non-value added, our scaffolding or our computer startup. Historically we've just accepted it, but what can we do to challenge it and reduce the need for that requirement? Do we have to have that scaffolding? Can we do it in a more efficient way? Probably the answer is no, but let's at least challenge it and look. So understanding this biggest prize of reducing waste is how we boost productivity, not by looking at the physical piece of work that someone's doing when they're adding value. It's all the other stuff that we're interested in. There's 90% the rest of the day. And one of the easiest tools is what we call a go look see. So go look see basically is us visiting a workplace, whether that be design office, construction site, office, actually out on site, out on scheme. So go to the workplace and start looking at, what's working well, what's not working so well, what's causing frustration for people, and what are the potential opportunities. So a go look see is really about observing it with our own eyes, but also talking to people and get to understand how they feel about the work that they're involved in. So I know lots of us are going out on site and out onto projects. We're probably doing a weekly safety audit. Senior managers probably come round once a month and they're doing a walk around site and they're pointing things out like, that walkway's not very good and, that rubbish bin's not been emptied. These things need highlighting, but this is not what we mean by go look see. Go look see is go and talk to the people, ask them, how's your day going? What stopped you from working today? Any frustration? Have you got all the parts you need? Have you got the tools you need? Have you got the information? So that's what we call a go look see. We run a trip to Toyota. Some of the National Highways people have been on that activity. We run a trip to the Toyota engine plant to get people to see how they approach sort of improvements, productivity, leadership. And I was recently there and the line stopped. So the line building engine stopped. When it stops, someone pulls a cord and it makes a noise. So everyone knows that the line stopped. Within 2 minutes, the senior person on site had made their way from the office. She'd walked all the way from her office, all the way, it's not that far, but from her office down onto the line and was looking at why the line had stopped. So not a go look see, but that view of I need to see what's happening and I need to understand why my line is not working. So getting people out there, not just doing audits and site tours and ticking the box to say we've been out on site and we've done something, actually physically seeing what's happening. We've talked about the elimination of waste. Some of the waste that we will come across as part of our processes are often called tin wood or tin woods. So I'm not going to go through all of these wastes today, but we've got transportation, inventory, movement, weighting, overproduction, overprocessing, defects and skills. So they're all the things that are stopping us doing our value-added piece of work that we needed to be doing. So let's just pick on one: waiting time, or waiting waste. So where an area, person, process is idle due to waiting for another function or process to be performed. So either the previous trade's not finished, design's not ready, my MUP's not here, my equipment's not available, whatever it happens to be. Might be my my RAMs, my risk assessed method statement's not available. Whatever it is, they're waiting. So that eliminating that boosts our productivity. Here's just some photos I took, different sites, but some items being delivered here, I'll pretty much guarantee that that's not where they're going to end up. So why are we putting them there? Probably might even end up in the bin. Here's some materials that have been delivered to site. Already I can see that we've got some damage. We're actually propping them up with a piece of wood, which really doesn't look safe to me. Don't know if this is a holding area, a scrap area, or what, but I certainly wouldn't want to send someone in there to find something, mostly because it's not safe, but because there's no way they're going to be able to identify anything that's going on in that or what's in that area. Nearly finished workplace. See, we've got walls up, windows in, ductwork, lighting, and yet we're using it as a storage area. Risk of damage and all those types of things. So this is what we talk about waste, improving productivity. let's say someone's got to come in here and do a piece of work in the ceiling. And move all of this stuff before they can get to the area they need to work in. Never going to be the right level of productivity. Not just about people though. Lots of equipment here sat around. It might be due to weather. I just happened to take a snapshot as I was walking around. None of it working. No one in any of it. It wasn't break time. Spaghetti maps. We use a spaghetti map quite often. This looks at our site layout and looks at where we're moving people and materials. Have we got the most efficient way? Is there a better way to move people and materials around site? So we haven't got heavily congested, unsafe areas, minimizing the amount of time that people are walking to and from the place of work. So again, all ways of looking at how we improve productivity. Couple of sheets here, just talk about those wastes, but in a service context and a leadership context. I won't go through them. I'll pick just one. Leadership waste, discipline waste. The loss caused by failure to maintain the behaviours and processes of the structure. So as a leader, we're allowing people to work outside a process. So we've let people, not follow this safe way of working or the standard way of working. That's going to cause us lost time or potentially worse. So that's a waste that the leader of that area has introduced into that process. I saw a great quote actually. I think it was it was the person that heads up the British Army, and they basically linked to this one, said that the standard you walk by is the standard you accept. So effectively what they say by that quote was anything you're walking by, either ignoring or accepting, is the new standard you've just set in as a leader. Their quote went on to say, the standard you walk by is the standard you accept. If you don't like it, get out of here. Basically, we're saying there's no place for you in the army if that's how you're going to behave. We don't want that military environment on our projects, but it does send a clear message that there's a lot of what's going on is down to leadership. And then just starting to look at some of the levers we can use today for driving improvements and really accelerating our productivity. So thinking about our people, have we got shared values and aligned behaviors? Is everyone working to achieve the same thing? Are we all focused on the same outputs? Do we have clear roles and responsibilities? Do we know who is responsible for certain activities out on site or in the office? And do we know what their level of responsibility is? Have we got effective skills development? So are we bridging that skills gap? Are we looking at where we need to perhaps train people for future skills that we're not quite using yet? Digital is a big part of this at the moment. There's almost I was talking on an activity yesterday, there's almost an assumption that everyone can work a laptop. It's not always that case. Not everyone knows how to use Excel or Outlook, so let's not just assume people do. We might have to develop those skills. Thinking about our products, are we listening to the voice of our customer? Are we working to target value design? So are we delivering a product that meets the expectations of our client? We've not underspecified, we've not overspecified, but we're targeting our designs. I've seen, particularly in rail, some designs. I mean, I saw a ramp design once that was actually just to access a small control room. I'm sure this ramp would have been visible from the moon. It was that big, just completely over-engineered. So are we designing our products correctly? Are we designing for construction? Are we making things or designing things that can be built? Or are we putting something together that might look okay on the CAD system, but in reality, we can't deliver it. Rigorous adoption of techniques such as BIM, so building information management. So are we making sure that we haven't got clashes in our designs and out on site? So again, how are we looking at that our product is fit for purpose? Thinking about our processes. Have we got end-to-end process optimization? Have we truly looked at on-site and off-site? Are we making sure that all of our processes are as slick as they need to be or can be? Are we eliminating waste from those processes? Spoke about digital technologies. Very interesting at the minute. There's lots of people claiming if you put a digital solution in, will improve your productivity by 20%. And I'm not going to say they can't do it, but I think we need to make sure that we don't digitize poor processes. So before we put a digital solution in, we might want to check that the process is actually fit for purpose and delivers what it should. Because, as I said, no point digitizing a broken process. And performance. Have we got that visual management, that dashboard, that control room? Do we know what's happening? Have we got seamless reporting through our organization? Can anyone see within 30 seconds, what's the current status? Is it good or bad? What are we doing to fix it? That's where we need to be. 30 seconds, we can see what our issues are. And then from that, we can start to drive improvement and share that knowledge about the improvements we've made. So just a few words about developing growth. I won't go through those. I'll leave them on there. But it's just about how we grow and deliver profit as an organization. But some top tips. Start to leave you with these today. Top tips. If we think of productivity as wealth, that often counteracts this view of, well, it's too expensive, it's too costly, I haven't got the money. Productivity is what drives wealth and gives us wealth. And when we are being more productive, it means we're getting or using less input to get the same output, or we're increasing our output with the same input. But ideal scenario is we're reducing our input and increasing our output. So that's, if you like, our win-win. Top tip number 3, focus on the customer and the process, not the results. So yeah, results are important, but not if the customer's unhappy. If the customer's really not happy with what we've done, then our results as an organization probably are not going to be that long lasting. Promote teamwork and collaboration. But we can't do this on our own. We can't fix these issues on our own. We have to have that teamwork and collaboration across the entire organization. We always want to maintain a healthy dissatisfaction with the current situation or the status quo. I always say to teams, let's challenge all those fixed ideas. Just because we've done it that way, the same way for 40 years, doesn't mean that's the right way. It might be, but let's challenge it and have a look how we do it. Recently working with a concrete frame contractor, and their guys out on site said that wasting your time being here. We've been doing this for 30 years. We're experts. We know what we're doing. And they were absolutely correct. They were experts, but we were still able to eke out about a 15% improvement in productivity with what they were doing. Not that they ever said thanks and we were wrong, but yeah, so it's challenging some of those fixed ideas. Take the value of and benefits of small improvements, 1% better every day. It's not about making things 20% better, 30% better, 40%. Let's just make it 1% better every day. Focus on the things that you can improve, that you can directly control. We can lose a lot of time and energy focusing on what other people should be doing. Let's let them get on with that. Let us just focus on what we can control and do, rather than just sit there and go, well, they should be doing that. They should be doing this. Why aren't they doing that? Let's focus on what we can control ourselves. Number 8, go look, see. You'll find the answers in the workplace. They won't be on a spreadsheet. They will be in the workplace. So that's where you need to go. Maintain that sense of urgency. So starting something right now is the only way to win. We saw that on one of the guys on the little video I showed you. So we can't wait around for prizes in 20 years' time. We need it now. And finally, improvement is infinite. Better is not good enough. So just because we've made an improvement doesn't mean it stops there. I'm sure if you've just watched the Olympics, you've probably seen the high jump or the pole vault guy that was just going up 1 centimeter at a time, breaking the record, breaking the record, breaking the record. So even though he just broke the record, it wasn't it, didn't walk away. Better's not good enough. I'm going to try and break it again. So that's what we want to be doing, continually making things better. Finally, to leave you with this little model. I know people like little frameworks and models. So this is our 7-step framework for success. So if we're thinking about improving productivity, let's start by engaging our team, our organization. Then let's define the issue that we want to make better. So is it the installation of drainage, installation of lighting, traffic management system? What is it that we're going to be working on? Let's identify what information we need. What data are we going to need for that activity? How are we going to collect that data? So what technology do we need to collect that data? As I say, is it an app, Excel spreadsheet, scrappy bit of paper? Not fussed as long as I get the information, but what's the best way? Let's then collate that data, bring it all together. Let's get, not just one night's worth of data, because that's not enough. Let's get maybe a month, 2 weeks, whatever we deem appropriate. Let's get a few weeks of information. We can then measure and analyze, understand how well we're doing, how far off target, what's the gap, what's causing us the issues. We can then go out, make the improvements, feed back to our teams what it is that we've done, and then we're back round into the cycle again. So that's our little 7-step framework for success. So before I leave you with that, just a few post-it notes for you to fill in just to close out today. There is going to be a feedback form for you to fill in, sort of to give us some feedback from today's session. What I'm keen to learn from people is, what's your key learning been from today? What's it going to make you do different? And then if there's something you'd like to know more about, just drop it on one of these yellow post-it notes. That helps me define, what goes in as content on some of these activities, these workshops. So if you could do that for me, what's your key learning, call to action, and then things you'd like to know more about. Any questions while you're doing that? We've got 20 minutes left of our allotted time. If you've got any questions, put them in the Q&A or in the chat, and I will answer those for you. But if you can drop in the key learning for me, that will be great. If you've got no questions or nothing more to add, then thanks for attending the session. Hope you found it useful. Hope you've found something to take away using your own organisation, and I look forward to seeing you on an activity in the future. Thanks for your time today.